We're kicking off today with Shane McMahon, as his recent meeting with Tony Khan has had the wrestling world speculating on whether he'll soon be All Elite. Earlier this year, Shane spoke to AEW talent about possibly joining, though this wasn't an official pitch, and all of this comes over a year after his last WWE appearance at WrestleMania 39. In an update on Wrestling Observer Radio, it was reported that Shane had tried to get back in WWE after that show, but those in charge of the company have no interest in him. McMahon still has a lot of negativity around him within WWE, as people there haven't forgotten the chaotic scene he created backstage at the 2022 Royal Rumble PLE. Despite being part of the creative team, Shane only focused on ideas in the men's Rumble match that benefited him, and his situation led to Vince McMahon firing his son after the show. Dave Meltzer's report adds that Shane has a lot of money and was paid handsomely for his time as a part-time WWE superstar, and he said he wouldn't be surprised if this is all a leverage play. It's possible that Shane's meeting with Khan is merely an attempt to scare those in WWE at the prospect of a McMahon in AEW, and therefore facilitate the WWE comeback Shane wants. When Shane was previously away, WWE didn't seek his return, and Linda McMahon had to push for it due to injuries to the roster in 2016, so he could feud with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. In 2024, we know to never say never in wrestling, and could Shane O'Mac be All Elite? Or is this a tactic by McMahon to make a WWE return happen? Share your thoughts down in the comments. Unsurprisingly, the rumors of Shane McMahon joining AEW has had those in the wrestling business speculating, and Ricky Starks tried to have some fun on social media this week. Starks, who hasn't competed in AEW since March, jokingly asked fans if Shane's theme played on this week's Dynamite, in what the X-Tag champion must have thought was an innocent joke. When a fan took issue with the question, Starks asked what was wrong with it, to which the fan simply told Starks to go run to NXT. That fan later chimed up again, saying that if Starks isn't truly with AEW, then he's against the company, and said that the AEW startup doesn't need a building block being a tweener. Starks responded once more by asking what exactly was wrong with his question about Shane, and said he didn't think asking a question would be taken as putting AEW down. Starks has since deleted his initial tweet, and perhaps he'll think twice the next time he asks about Shane McMahon, or risk being revealed as not being truly on board with All Elite Wrestling. In 2024, WWE has been more open to working with other companies than ever before, with Pro Wrestling Noah, Marigold, Bloodsport, and TNA Wrestling all featuring WWE talent. Given this change from WWE's previous stance, many fans have questioned whether a WWE AEW show is possible, and Tony Khan said recently that he loves the idea. During the Sports Media podcast, though, Chris Legentil, WWE's EVP of Talent Relations and Head of Communications, was asked about the idea and said, "There's no interest. I just want to make clear, there is definitely a variety of excellent talent that don't currently reside in WWE. There is no shot there that is being fired. It's just to say, the answer to your question is no conversation has been had in relation to that." This will come as a blow to fans who are eager to see a crossover, though it's always important to remember that just because there hasn't been talks yet doesn't mean there never will. After all, fans for years believed CM Punk would never return to WWE and that Vince McMahon would never retire, let alone twice, so we can't count out a crossover event just yet. But what do you think of this situation? Would you be interested in a crossover event, and if so, what interpromotional matches would you want to see? Let us know down below. We've got some personal news from AEW TBS and New Japan Strong Women's Champion Mercedes Moné, as her marriage to Sareth Tan, aka Mikaze, is officially coming to an end. In a heartfelt video, Moné candidly expressed her mixed emotions about the divorce process and mentioned that she's happy to finally be free from fear. "Tomorrow I finally signed the divorce papers after waiting for so long. I'm excited and happy. I'm ready to be free from fear. Keeping this secret was tough with everything moving so fast in wrestling. I didn't want any judgments or comments during such a turbulent time. I'm grateful to Sareth for being an amazing person in my life, but now I'm ready to move on." She also disclosed that she had hidden their separation from the public and media during her stint in New York, including from interviewers who inquired about Sareth. "We separated in late December 2020, and he moved out in January 2021. At that time, I was involved in filming The Mandalorian and striving to headline WrestleMania. "We chose to keep our separation quiet because of the unpredictability in WWE management decisions and storylines. At the time, Vince was heavily promoting a storyline involving me and another character, which complicated things further. It's been a long road, filled with professional challenges and personal secrecy, but now, our divorce is finally about to be official." It was in 2016 that the pair married after previously meeting on the independent scene, and Tun, who is now retired from the ring, now works as a costume designer for WWE. Mercedes Moné's revelation about her separation offers a profound glimpse into the personal struggles she managed to keep private, and we wish both of them the best at this time. We're looking ahead to Survivor Series now, as this year's show will take place on November 30th from the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British Columbia. This news was shared on social media by Triple H, who confirmed that this will be a War Games show, and added that fans are not going to want to miss what's in store. This event has been a long time coming for Vancouver, whose most recent WWE PLE was In Your House Rock Bottom all the way back in December 1998. William Regal was unable to announce War Games last year due to a non-compete clause, but with that over, don't be surprised if we see more of the Brit on the road to the November show. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past month, you'll know that John Cena has shared that he will retire next year, ending one of the most successful in-ring careers ever. Cena's announcement at Money in the Bank has led to many wrestlers putting their names forward as possible opponents, and that includes TNA's very own Joe Hendry. Shortly after Cena's announcement, Hendry put himself forward as an opponent and told the listeners of Matt Hardy's Extreme Life podcast, "Why not me?" During a more recent interview with Muscleman Malcolm, Hendry was asked again about Cena and said, "If I win the TNA World Championship, I will call out John Cena immediately." Given Hendry's immense popularity in both TNA and NXT, a match with Cena is not out of the realm of possibility, nor is a potential TNA World title win for the viral media star. Could John Cena's 17th world title see him hold the TNA World title? Are you interested in the idea of Cena versus Hendry? Sound off down below. It was back in November that CM Punk shocked fans by returning to WWE, and on the post-show press conference, Triple H said that both he and Punk were different people from before. Punk has certainly benefited greatly from Triple H's creative vision, as he's remained on TV despite his injury, and many believe this wouldn't be the case if Vince McMahon were around. Speaking to Jimmy Traina of Sports Illustrated, Punk compared his experiences working for McMahon and Triple H and the key differences between the two leaders. He said, "I think Vince would make people wait outside his office. There'd be like a line, you know what I mean? And people would be intimidated by that. And I don't get that read off Triple H at all. I don't see people waiting outside his office." Punk observed that Triple H is more approachable and accessible, focusing on the overall success of the company rather than trying to intimidate people who work for him. He added, "I never had that with Vince. I would always just go in and ask him a question if I needed to, never trying to waste his time, never trying to waste Triple H's time, but I see Triple H being a lot more hands-on with people and approachable and accessible. He wants everybody to be their best because he wants the show to be the best, so there's no leftover 80s macho kind of weird energy going on." Punk isn't the only superstar to think this way, as Cody Rhodes stated that Triple H has an open mind unlike Vince McMahon, and Randy Orton has called the game's regime best for business. With all the deals and interesting ideas Triple H has been coming up with over the months, fans can't wait to see what else WWE will have in store for them. But what do you make of Punk's comparison of Vince McMahon and Triple H? Is WWE the best it's ever been thanks to the game? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. When Triple H took over as head of talent in 2022, one of the first things he did was bring back released talent who were unceremoniously shown the door by Vince McMahon's regime. Bronson Reed, Dakota Kai, Braun Strowman, and Bray Wyatt were all rehired by Triple H that year, and it appears we could soon see more ex-superstars make a comeback. During his appearance on the Sports Media podcast, Chris Legentil said that if a wrestler wants to come back, WWE is always happy to have a conversation about their return. Legentil also acknowledged that things change both behind the scenes and in front of the camera, suggesting that a release is far from a permanent thing in WWE's current era. From former superstars to a brand new one now, as Jacob Hendry, the son of WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry, has signed a contract with the promotion. During the Remix Rumble event, Mark Henry had a chance to show off his DJ skills before Jacob took the microphone to make an announcement, and the crowd immediately chanted NXT. Jacob shared the exciting news that he's going to be a WWE superstar and a contract has been signed, but don't think he's just getting this massive opportunity because of his dad. The younger Hendry has been a dominant force in amateur wrestling in high school, and earlier this year won his 100th match, much to the delight of the world's strongest dad. Jacob was also selected for the University of Oklahoma wrestling team, but now it'll be WWE fans cheering for the second-generation superstar now that he's officially under contract. Since arriving on the Raw roster, Bron Breakker has proven to be an untamable beast, with Adam Pearce's efforts to make him fall in line proving to be in vain. At SummerSlam, Breakker will once more challenge Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship, and Bron sent a violent message to his opponent this week. Pat McAfee welcomed Bron Breakker to his show this morning, and McAfee and his co-hosts gave Breakker a warm welcome, complete with dog barks. Breakker noticed a man on the side holding a sign that declared Sami Zayn would defeat him at SummerSlam, and Bron raced across the gym and speared the man holding the sign. Breakker has flattened countless opponents with that spear, and should he do the same this weekend, we may have a new Intercontinental Champion dominating Monday Night Raw. What have you made of the Sami Breakker feud, and what have you made of how WWE has booked Bron so far? Give your take in the comments section. More from SummerSlam, as Gunther has the opportunity of a lifetime this weekend, as the Ring General will challenge reigning World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest. For Gunther, this title match comes after an 18-year journey in wrestling that began in late 2005, but that journey nearly came to an end just a few years ago. While speaking to Shaq Wrestling, Gunther was asked about the lowest point of his professional wrestling career and said that 2013 or 2014 was an all-time low point. Gunther revealed that he was wrestling only on weekends while working a day job with night shifts, and the schedule became so unsustainable he considered quitting wrestling. However, after discussing the situation with WXW, he was offered the opportunity to run their wrestling school, which allowed him to make professional wrestling his full-time career. From there, Gunther would have plenty of success in Germany's WXW, as well as other promotions, before the Ring General made his way to WWE NXT UK in 2019. After establishing himself as a dominant force of NXT UK, Gunther would move to NXT and now the main roster, but this run in WWE may never have happened if not for those in WXW. In September 2023, WWE made its first wave of talent releases following the launch of TKO Group Holdings, and Dana Brooke was among those cut by the company. Strangely, her exit came while Brooke was re-establishing herself within the WWE NXT brand, but clearly, her trajectory was not aligned with the company's plans. When WrestleFeatures tweeted a question asking their followers whose booking worsened under Triple H, Brooke herself answered and said she suffered under the game's direction. Brooke was briefly on the free agency market after her release before joining TNA, where she works as Ash by Elegance, and has been one of the more featured knockouts ever since. Despite her issues with WWE booking, Ash did make a return at NXT Battleground as part of Jordynne Grace's NXT Women's title match with Roxanne Perez that saw the Prodigy retain. Ash has since feuded with Grace and unsuccessfully challenged the Knockouts champ at Slammiversary, and feels her WWE direction under Triple H left a lot to be desired. When you think of Bryan Danielson's WWE run, the word yes comes to mind, as that one-word chant from the American Dragon proved to be insanely popular with the fans. Now fans could be hearing Bryan yes once more, as a recent filing has revealed that the AEW star has filed a trademark for the phrase yes, yes, yes in the world of entertainment. That chant has been heard in AEW by the fans, though Danielson has refrained from using it, though that could all change if his filing for a trademark on the term is approved. When CM Punk walked out of WWE in 2014, he would sign with UFC by the end of that year, but would only compete twice in the Octagon. Punk's time in the cage did not exactly go well, as his first fight saw him lose in 134 seconds, while his second and last fight was deemed a no contest as his opponent failed a drug test. CM Punk may not have taken the world of UFC by storm, but when speaking to MightyCast, WWE phenom The Undertaker shared that he respects Punk being part of the UFC. He said, "One thing with Punk that I do respect is the fact that he tried it. He had a huge name in wrestling before he tried mixed martial arts. He had a lot to lose because wrestling was his moneymaker, and then you go over to MMA and get your ass handed to you. I had a lot of respect for him and the fact that he gave it a shot. It was something he wanted to do, he did it. It didn't work out and he's back where he should be and everything is right in the world." Though it didn't go as he'd planned, Punk gave UFC a go, which is much more than most people can say, and he's since been able to re-establish himself in the world of pro wrestling. While some fans and wrestlers may poke fun at Punk's UFC run to this day, they likely haven't competed in the octagon. And do you agree with The Undertaker? Sound off in the comments. On tonight's SmackDown, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa will put their WWE tag titles on the line, but DIY had an interesting stop to make before that show. Last night, Absolute Intense Wrestling hosted their Against the World event, and fans in Cleveland were stunned when both Ciampa and Gargano appeared at the show. Gargano's career in wrestling started as part of AEW, and during his years with the company, he'd feud with some notable names including Tyler Black, aka Seth Rollins, and Bryan Danielson. The pair clearly had a great time at the show, but it'll be all business tonight when they defend their gold against Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu of the Bloodline. The heels won a gauntlet match last week to earn the title shot, and will the Bloodline spoil DIY's return to Cleveland? We'll find out tonight on SmackDown. Not too long ago, Jonathan Coachman had some strong words about Mercedes Moné, who he questioned whether the arrogance she showed in WWE was warranted given her in-ring career. Coachman suggested that Moné's claims about perks in AEW, such as using a private jet and having creative control, might be overstated, and critiqued the promo skills of the CEO. The coach argued that if Tony Khan did grant creative control, it reflects poorly on his judgment, and said Moné's inability to back up her words with matches led to a lack of WWE success. Now one has to question if the multi-time champion who headlined WrestleMania 37 Night 1 was unsuccessful as Coach believes, but his comments have earned a response from Moné. In a statement, Moné said that she doesn't follow WrestlePress, who reported Coachman's criticisms, and hasn't read the article, but saw the headline quote from the ex-WWE GM. Moné then added that she has been dealing with these dumb old dudes and their critiques for over a decade, and suspects Coachman's comments may be a case of clickbait. She added that her high earning power might also contribute to the criticism, and that she has seen more success and more money than those against her will ever reach. The AEW star concluded that whether the discussion is positive or negative, she continues to make an impact, as the CEO isn't backing down from the arrogance Coach says she has. But what do you think of what Mercedes Moné had to say in response to Jonathan Coachman and her other critics? Sound off in the comments below. We're looking ahead to WrestleMania 41 now, as the show will take place next year in Nevada and will obviously feature some of the biggest names in all of wrestling. When it comes to big names in wrestling, it doesn't get much bigger than Stone Cold Steve Austin, who dropped a major tease for the show earlier this week. In an interview with The Athletic, Austin teased being involved in the show, saying it's hard to get him out of Nevada and that WrestleMania 41 is coming to the state he loves. It was back at WrestleMania 38 that Austin made a return to the ring with an epic victory over Kevin Owens, and ever since, fans have speculated that another match could happen. After CM Punk's return to WWE last year, it was reported that WWE was optimistic a dream match with Austin could happen, but obviously that hasn't been the case so far. Could Punk vs. Austin finally happen next April? That remains to be seen. And what do you make of the Rattlesnakes tease? Sound off down below. Over the past week, Giulia has shared the news that her next 5 matches in Japan will be the last matches for her in the country, and her final match will be for Marigold on August 19th. After that date, fans can expect to see her make a full-time transition to WWE NXT, where she is expected to be booked as a top star, but there could be some changes to her work. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was stated that Giulia will need to adjust her in-ring style, and while fans will see her as a major international star, she'll need to adapt to fit WWE's style. Dave Meltzer pointed out that WWE typically prefers a less hard-hitting approach, especially for women, and Giulia's current aggressive style might not align with WWE's standards. It should be pointed out that this hasn't happened yet, and that it can't be confirmed what changes, if any, WWE will request from Giulia when she joins the roster full-time. Roxanne Perez recently name-dropped Giulia, suggesting that a feud between the two is coming, and we'll have to see what kind of style we see from Giulia when she's officially a superstar. At NXT Battleground, Kalani Jordan became the first NXT North American Women's Champion, marking the first ever women's mid-card title in the promotion's history. While similar titles exist in other promotions, including AEW, WWE's main roster is yet to have a similar championship, but reigning women's champion Bayley hopes that changes. On Booker T's Hall of Fame podcast, Bayley spoke about the idea of a secondary women's title on the main roster and said she'd love for that to happen in the future. Bayley reflected on being a driving force behind the introduction of the women's tag titles, which she admitted don't always get that much time, and she also hopes to see that change soon. The role model said that once the women's tag division is solidified, then WWE should look at bringing in a secondary women's title to the main roster, as that would help a lot of women shine. While it was reported recently that women's US and Intercontinental titles had been discussed, fans haven't seen those belts yet, and what do you think of this idea? Sound off below. And we're ending today with AJ Lee, and it seems like ever since she hung up her boots in 2015, there have been fans eager for the former Divas champion to make a return. Those voices grew last November when CM Punk returned, as there'd been speculation for years that Lee wasn't coming back, partly because of the toxic fallout between Punk and WWE. Speaking on the SI Media podcast, Punk was asked about his wife and said that while he'd like to see her return to WWE, she won't be pushed in any direction she doesn't want to go. Punk added that AJ inspired a generation of female wrestlers, which is no joke, as Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade are just some of the superstars who cite Lee as a major influence. Punk concluded by saying that he'd do cartwheels if she came back, but he can't make her do anything she doesn't wish to do, as their relationship is built on a deep mutual respect. Since leaving WWE, AJ has done plenty, from being a best-selling author to working with the WOW promotion, but fans remain hopeful that a WWE return will come one day.